from Dr. Berger. Start with.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll wait for my presentation to pop up here, just a few slides. Annually, the district provides a tax rate hearing, talk about assessed valuation growth and the rate to be levied, proposed to be levied. And we'll start off here with a little history lesson of recent history of Proposition 1. Certainly, Proposition 1 has implications on the tax rate. And if you'll remember, the kind of the Finance 101 and the example we used through the campaign was what revenues the 20 cents, the additional 20 cents that Proposition 1 would generate. That formula is pretty simple. At this time that we started work on this, the actual assessed value represented here was $303 million. You'll see that that's changed just a little bit, but times that 20 cents in Proposition 1, and we take that $600 million divided by 100 to get $600,000. So we'll talk just a little bit about that in this presentation as it's connected to the tax rate. At that time, during the campaign for Proposition 1, we drafted out expenditures to meet that new revenue of $600,000. And under the realm of safety, we had purchases, expenditures of about $255,000, and technology. And if you remember, that came from our Patron Insight Survey, and that our patrons wanted to see those additional resources go to those two things. As we started the budget year last spring, we started tuning that just a little bit, and all these expenditures, all these funds are not spent yet, but the fiscal year 17 expenditures were rolled over, so that money rolled over to fiscal year 18 in budget lines, and then this was the additional amount for fiscal year 18 represented by that $233,000. An example of something that's already been committed to is the additional SRO there, and of course that was in the hire of Officer Christiana Ball, who's serving at Freedom and East, and she's been on duty already. A few of these other things will materialize as the year comes by, and I've got a light show going with this. Is it going to blank out, or is that some eclipse action going on? Just me? Just me? Yes. Okay, all right. Near eclipse. We're blue. All right, and then in technology, same thing. This FY17, those expenditures rolled over to FY18 in budget lines, and then you see the new expenditures to total of $366,000. Part of that $600,000 of new revenue that was created by Proposition 1. And this is a stat I really like to put out there, and we'll be doing it every opportunity, because though our patrons will experience a tax increase, if the board approves the $295 rate as proposed tonight, there we will still be a bargain for the product that we put out. 93% of the 516 school districts in the state will still have a higher tax rate than our $295 as proposed tonight. So now to the kind of get into a couple slides of the business in order, and that is the growth of assessed valuation. We had a significant growth, at least in my short tenure here at Waynesville, the most that we've seen. So there's $306 million in total assessed value for the FY17 tax year has grown to $314 million, and that represents a 2.7% of growth. Most of that, as you kind of break that down and kind of unlayer it, real estate, you might remember, is made up of commercial, residential, and agricultural. There wasn't much change in those three categories, but you do see quite a bit of change here in the personal property category. Also making up some of the commercial under real estate was we had about $5 million come off of TIF, or tax increment financing. So basically that section of Waynesville ICARD that was under a TIF that went into effect, I believe it was 1994. For some reason 1997 is creeping into my mind, but came off in 2017, which created almost $5 million in additional assessed value for the district. New construction was up just a little bit too. Most typically we'd see about $3.5–4 million, and it went over $5 million in new construction. Anyway, in sum of all that, our assessed value for the current tax year, $314 million. And then there's a new line on this one too, or a new number. So the proposed tax rate, our tax rate ceiling, 295, and that will generate $9.2 million. And of course, that 20 cents that generates $600,000 is in that sum. So later in action tonight, be recommending that the board approve a 295 levy, of course, that additional 20 cents for Proposition 1. I'd entertain any questions that there might be. If none, thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Is there any comments? If no comments about the tax levy, I call the meeting, the August meeting of the Board of Education together. Would you stand and with me and we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Keelan makes a motion. Mr. Anderson, second. All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. Citizens' participation.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had no requests for participation this evening.
Number 5, written communications.
Thank you, Mr. President. We did have one written communication that was distributed to the board via email.
Okay. 6A, military liaison update. Mr. Bardell.
Good evening, Mr. President and all fellow board members. Just a real quick update. The partners in education with our military units and the collaboration with the school district. We had our first meeting. A lot of participation from school administrators, but also a lot of units are involved. So it was a great kickoff meeting. And I think in some instances we may even have 2 units per school. And we're stretching out beyond just the district. So it looks like we're off to another successful year with that. Some of the activities coming up on the installation for families. We've got this Friday at 8 o'clock at Collier Park. There is the movie in the park, the movie Sing, which is a great activity. We get a lot of folks from both from downtown and also on the post to participate. And also just a reminder to those folks out there, as we were able to hand off all the children and families to Dr. Henry and his team, our summer is over, so come September, right at the beginning, we'll start to reduce operational hours. A lot of our facilities out there that provide services to families. So we ask that rather than go through each one individually, just that they call ahead of time, because we'll go to weekend hours and some limited Thursday and Friday activities and some of the family activities. And that's all I had to report.
All right, thank you. 6B, district announcements. Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I always like to hear, Mr. Bardell, that you're going to movie nights versus running.
I thought we were supposed to have a hair growing contest.
Yeah,
but that's
he
probably not
approached
the
me
right
about
forum
having
to
a
talk
hair
about
growing
that,
contest.
so.
Nobody wants to see that. Okay. Well, we we didn't take a vote on it, I guess.
Take a vote on that.
Well, here we go. Eclipse Day. We've made it, okay, and things went very well. Today, all of our students had that had parental permission went outside to witness the eclipse. It was a great learning opportunity for our students, and I hope that more students are inspired to study science, technology, engineering, and math as a result of participating in today's event. We even went out to district office level and took a look, and I was expecting more darkness or something. Yes, but I guess the crickets and the frogs started chirping, things like that. 10th anniversary of the state championship football team. Waynesville High School Class 5A football state championship team will return to WHS on Thursday and Friday for a 10th anniversary celebration. The community is invited to a free barbecue at 6:30 p.m. this Thursday in the high school cafeteria. At about 8:30, a video of the state championship game will be played in its entirety on the football field. Everyone is invited to bring blankets onto the field to view the championship's game film. On August 25th, the team will be recognized during halftime of the first home game. The Tigers will take on the Lebanon Yellow Jackets at 7 p.m. East and Freedom are K-5 buildings. East and Freedom are housing kindergarten through 5th grade students. As always, with the start of the school year, buses will be running late, and we appreciate everyone's patience. Thanks to the passing of the tax levy, we will have added school resource officer, Christiana Ball, at East and Freedom. She will focus on positive relationships with our students and also helping with that traffic after school. But it's gotten much better. Kudos to the staff and the administration at East and Freedom, and thank you to the parents for their patience as we get the new kid account system all lined out. Enrollment for 2017-18 on our first day of school, we were at approximately 5,800 students, which is larger than what we were expecting, but that's great news. Fortunately, we have plenty of room for anyone, and so Mr. Bardell, you tell the Army to keep bringing them, and we'll have a place to put them, okay? Homecoming this will be on September 29th, and this year's theme is Celebrating Our Stripes. The theme focuses on celebrating our Tiger pride as well as the pride we hold for being a military-based school. We are celebrating our Tiger Stripes and America's Stripes. We will take on the Camdenton Lakers. And finally, Military Appreciation Night. We will celebrate Military Appreciation Night on September the 8th. All active duty military will be admitted free with a military ID.
That'll be a nice night.
Yes.
Thank you. Consent items, 7A, bid recommendations, Dr. Berger.
Just a couple, Mr. President, for custodial equipment and furniture, and pretty straightforward bids, I think, this month.
All right. 7B, financials, Dr. Berger.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Missouri, in MOSIP, $47,338,302.77. CDs, $10.5 million. General account, $452,960.69. Payroll account, $25,770.31. August Treasury report, $58,317,033.77.
Thank you. The rest of the consent items, 7C, special minutes from July 13th. Special closed session minutes from July 13th. 7E, special session minutes from July 14th. 7F, study session minutes from July 17th. 7G, regular session minutes from July 17th. 7F, closed session minutes for July 17th, 2014. We need to approve the consent items. May I have a motion? Mr. Schultz makes the motion. Mr. Quinn seconds it. All those in favor? Very good. 8A, staff recognitions. Dr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight we are going to recognize Piney Ridge Center. They have continued with implementation of the PBS program, and this year at the Summer Institute were recognized with silver level status for their implementation of PBS. So we'd like to call up the Piney Ridge Center representatives to be recognized.
Thank you. 9A, administrative contracts, late resignation clause. First reading, Mrs. Bales.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attached to your board docs is an administrative contract late resignation clause presented for your first reading. The clause was sent to the TABS committee for review and no comments or concerns were received. Administration will seek approval at the regular September meeting.
Thank you. 9B, Waynesville Middle School construction update. Dr. Berger.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Things are starting to happen a little bit, and Dawn is here to give us an update this month. Dawn from DHA.
Okay, great. Dr. Berger, do you know if the last three images
I
that
don't. I'll cut you off. I don't.
You,
I didn't
you
know.
don't know if they are or if they were?
No.
Okay. Do you think we need to see those? I have those on a flash drive, so I don't know.
we're okay.
I think we're okay. All right.
We can talk about them a little bit, though, maybe.
Okay. Well, as Dr. Berger had mentioned, construction is really starting to move along now. We're not necessarily just looking at earth and where trenches are and underground plumbing. We're beginning to now see walls. One of the things I wanted to speak about tonight is there was a pretty substantial rain occurrence here. I believe it was a couple of weeks ago that really sort of played havoc to our Mitchell Creek and really caused some of the rock structure and actually the stream bed to move a little bit. So this image is a little dark, but we're standing looking at some of the underground structures here. I think maybe the next image, that head wall area, let me see. This right here is an existing structure that comes from, I believe, the Fine Arts Center as well as the original middle school. And as you can see, there's a lot of rock and debris and things that are beginning to pile up in the creek area. So I think the next image is going to, well, that's another image of the sanitary manhole. But what I wanted to bring to your attention, I'm going to go back, maybe we can see it, well, you really can't see it very well on this, but there is an outlet structure that is new to our project that is right here. It's a pretty substantial round outlet structure that we had the civil engineer actually come down to the site after that rain occurrence because we were concerned of the massive amount of silting and such around that new outlet structure. Now, what I realize that's in very dark shadow there, but ultimately there will be a concrete structure that's placed around that pipe area here. And what we have asked the civil engineer to do is help us understand how we can try to maintain the bank a little bit better of Mitchell Creek because it seems to be eroding away constantly. It's constantly moving. It's not unusual for that type of creek to happen, but he has made a recommendation to install both 40 feet upstream and 40 feet downstream a large boulder-like, I'll call it almost like a retaining wall. It's not finished like a retaining wall, but it is very large boulders that will be placed, and they will actually maintain that side of the creek. So we believe that it will actually improve the performance, and certainly as we have very large rain occurrences, we're really trying to establish, I guess that would be the, let me see what direction that is. That would be the north side of the creek. So that there will be an extra for that. That was an unanticipated cost, and we will identify that cost through the contractor and present it to Dr. Berger. A lot of the other images here are showing utility upgrades. This is one of the new lines that was being very quickly cut through what is the bus turnaround area at the middle school. The goal was to get that concrete pavement cut and get the new utilities in below grade and get that repaired before you began the school. And again, these observations were, you can see from the bottom, they were on August the 9th. So I visited that just this afternoon to make sure that it's all in place. I'm sure that I would have heard that it wasn't because your buses couldn't have used that turnaround area, but it is all in place now. Moving on. A lot of the site foundation walls, when I say area B, that is the area, kind of the east academic wing of the school. It's beginning to give you a sense of what the limits of the building are there. Those retaining walls are, well, they're not retaining walls, they're foundation walls. And you can see from looking at this direction, we're looking east, that pretty substantial height. And if you recall, the fill that is behind that wall, that's not a hollow area, but that's a solid fill of that granular imported crushed stone that has been placed for the last several months. And obviously, before they can place any of that stone, they have to get all of the various utilities in those areas. What I was asking Dr. Berger about is, and maybe some of you might know this, but on last Friday, and I do have images, but they're not in this PowerPoint that didn't make it. But on last Friday, they actually started the pouring of the floor of area B. If I understand correctly, I think they started at 4:30 in the morning. The first image I saw was dark, and they poured all day. I just walked it this evening. It looks like an exceptionally good job. It's all now been saw cut into the various pieces for controlled cracking and such. But at least now we're beginning to get a sense or a feel for the school. This is the elevator pit. All of that concrete floor slab has now been placed around that. So if anyone is so adventuresome as to go over there, please watch your step if you do, but that floor slab now is all finally in place. You can see the men are still working on utilities before that slab was placed. This is the firewall that's being constructed adjacent to the existing gymnasium. And this has really proceeded quite a way. This wall only goes up partially where we have the western entrance. It's partial, as you can see it here. In other words, it doesn't go full height up to the top of the gymnasium. I think the next image, well, they now have it in place, but the concrete block now has been placed from this line all the way up to the existing roof structure, and that's where we have our two-story structure that comes into it. But that concrete wall is a required fire separation wall between the existing building and the new building. I believe that's the last image. Yeah, it is. It's the last image that I have, unless you'd like to load up the concrete floor images and see those. I do have them with me. But can I answer any questions this evening?
Mitchell Creek has always been a concern of the city of Waynesville.
It has.
What's your plans for that as far as that spot where you're going to have to work on?
Well, you know, obviously Mitchell Creek has had some improvements, I guess really in the last year with just trying to maintain. We, as part of this project, really cannot do anything with Mitchell Creek as far as physical improvements, other than I think that the school district has a I don't know if it's a written or unwritten agreement with the city to help maintain that creek on at least on your property. But in the particular area where we had that pipe come out, we knew that we had to do something there, because and that's why. And I'm the architect, so I don't know all of the civil issues associated. So that's why we had the civil engineer from Toth, Sean Berry is his name. He came out right after that rain occurrence. I believe he met with the contractor and various district representatives to look at what can we do to stabilize that creek, because probably that creek, well, I shouldn't say probably, that creek is controlled by the Department of Natural Resources. So there's not a lot you can do with creeks as far as basic structures, but as we're, you know, putting you, and that's stormwater. Our stormwater from this project is going into that creek, and we do that through that. I know you couldn't see that image of that large pipe, but it's a pretty substantial sized pipe, and we must maintain that. And just the nature of the creek as it in those large rain occurrences, it's carrying a lot of rain. It also has the ability to carry a lot of gravel size, you know, rock and stone and various things and other debris. So the logic of installing this sort of it's a head wall almost, is to make certain that we don't have deposits in front of the discharge pipe that we have there. So that's about all we can do right now.
Did you let the city know that you found a problem there or a concern?
You know, I apologize. I can't answer that question. I don't know.
They were consulted.
Okay, they
Yeah.
were.
They were consulted, and then our hydrologist out of Toth, which is Sean Berry.
Correct.
And really, to put it in layman's terms, you're really wanting the creek to do what the creek wants to do. You know, so you might cut out, or you're looking for the natural bed of the creek, and you're trying to accommodate what it naturally wants to do. The pipe that you're speaking about comes out on their image. They can see it on their.
Oh, it
on their
does? Okay,
desktop.
good.
So the new pipe, that big, what is it, a 36? Is it 36 inches? 36-inch pipe that comes out there was the one that gave us a little pause, because whenever after that rain, we saw all that material build up there. So we knew we needed to address it. So I think by way of the head wall, the agreement that Don mentioned earlier regarding the school district and the city is a written agreement. So to
As long as they
maintenance
had a
on
heads
Mitchell
up, that
Creek.
was my
Yep,
only
you
concern.
bet.
They have a representative at the Wednesday project meetings.
They did.
We didn't have one last week because we were getting school started, but, I can't remember the fellow's name, but we have someone.
Yeah,
here.
who from the city? Yeah, Jack Eldridge, yeah, of course.
But no, they have somebody at the meeting and stuff, and any of this, they know they have to touch base with FEMA people when they get down there close to it, so. But it's been a good working relationship ever since last year, when we first started talking about building the middle school and stuff.
Good.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 9C, ninth grade activities participation guideline, first reading, Mrs. Bales.
Thank you, Mr. President. Administration is presenting a change in eligibility for 8th graders going into 9th as a first reading tonight. Administration will bring it back to the board for vote in the regular September meeting.
Okay. 10A, action item, 217, 218 tax rate. Dr. Berger?
Yes, as we discussed earlier, new rate for Waynesville R6, $295. And again, I want to stress a bargain. 93% of the districts in Missouri have a higher local tax rate than our patrons, so we're fortunate. So,
Thank you.
recommending $295, Mr.
All right.
President.
Need a motion on the recommendation. Andy, Mr. Seconded by Mr. Keeling. All those in favor? 7-0. Megan? 10B, tuition rate. Dr. Berger?
Thanks again, Mr. President. The attached calculation sheet that you find there is used by the district to set the tuition rate. The calculation sheet reflects an adjusted cost of $97.47. The district has historically rolled that rate back to the nearest 50s or hundreds, and that pushes, or actually drops the rate for this year, for fiscal year 18, to $9,700, previously $9,800. So motion to approve the 18 school year tuition rate to $9,700, please.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Schultz makes that motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Deering seconds it. All those in favor? 7-0, Megan. 10C, early separation incentive plan. Mrs. Bales?
Thank you, Mr. President. The administration requests approval of the early separation incentive plan as presented for the 2017-18 school year.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve. Mr. Fulmer makes, Dr. Fulmer makes that motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Schultz seconds it. All those in favor? 7-0, Megan. 10D, policy JGR2 and JGR3, alternative suspension program handbook. Dr. Henry?
Thank you, Mr. President. As mentioned in study session, we're pleased to offer an alternate suspension program this year for first-time offenders. The design of this program is that they will spend less time out of school on out-of-school suspension. They will be in an alternate location, actually at our PIC facility. And we needed to get into the handbook the various long-term offenses that this would apply to. So that is what's in front of you, and I'm recommending its approval.
All right, need a motion to approve. Mr. Quinn makes that motion and a second by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor? 7-0, Megan. Athletic trainer, Dr. Berger, 10E.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve the athletic trainer agreement with Peak Sport and Spine for the 17-18 athletic season. Do want to make note there, you'll notice a name change. So Peak Athletic has bought Affinity Sports. Cheryl, who has served us personally in years past, will be doing the same. And contract to contract, there's no change or no implications for the district. So,
Okay, we need a motion to approve. Motion. Ms. Schultz makes that motion. Mr. Fulmer seconds it. All those in favor? 7-0, Megan. 10F, ambulance agreement. Dr. Berger.
thank you, Mr. President. Motion to accept the Pulaski County Ambulance District proposal for the 18 school year in the amount of $5,000. One note, that is a $1,000 increase, and they had we had heard the thunder on that. They've been giving us a heads up that they needed to move that up. So it is a $1,000 increase from previous year.
Okay, need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Dr. Fulmer makes that motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Daring seconds. All those in favor? 7-0, Megan. We have a need to go in closed session, close record, close vote as allowed by RSMO 610.021, Section 3, hiring, firing, and disciplining or promotion of employees. Section 13, individual personnel records, performance ratings. We need a motion to enter a closed session.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Keeler makes that motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Quinn seconds it. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. We are adjourned.